edition of On the Money with Secure Money. I'm Rebecca Powers. I was a longtime news anchor and investigative reporter, and it is my thrill each week to be here normally with Brian Quaranta, who created Secure Money Advisors. But we are so lucky this week because we get our senior advisor. He's really the director of the financial planning, Neil Major. It's good to work with you this week, Neil.
It's great to be here. I got big shoes to fill. I know Brian gets so many compliments every week about the message that we provide on these shows. So big shoes.
That's such a good point. It is such a great message. And I want to say quickly, if you have never read or seen Brian Quaranta or seen him on TV or heard him on the radio, this is a book that he created. It's called Right Track Your Retirement. And so often he said people would come in and say, I have all this money, but I don't know if I'm on the right track. Am I ready to retire? So that's where I want to start today. People can get this book absolutely free. You're all about educating and empowering, aren't y'all?
Absolutely. And the book is a great place to start, right? If you've never seen or heard us before, the book's a great place to start. It's retirement planning simplified, right? He's got about 80 pages in there. It's a very easy read.
Yeah.
So it can give you a lot of good points because you don't know what you don't know. And so you might get some understanding of questions you should be asking your advisor, things that you need to educate yourself on, but it's a great starting point. And what's nice is we send it to you, we cover the shipping, and it's an actual book, right? You know, a lot of times when you're looking for education, you'll get mailed something, but it comes via email, and then it gets buried in all your other emails and it disappears, right? You never end up reading it.
Yeah.
Actual book, I think you'll get a lot out of it. He did a really, really good job of simplifying things for people.
He really did. And I think he knew early on with social media that people were starting to get lost in the ether. There's almost too much information. How do you know who to trust? And so each chapter, think like a pensioner instead of, a gambler. I mean, it's very simplified. What do you think?
Isn't that the hardest part? There's so much noise. We have so much ability to gather information very easily. It's all at our fingertips, right? And that's a challenge. And to your point that you just made, trust is kind of factor number one. You got to trust the person that you would be working with, that they have the knowledge, they have the investment vehicles to be able to guide you, to give you the outcome that you're looking. I just had this happen.
Really?
I made a recommendation to one of my clients, and they came back and said, hey, we talked to our dad, and he actually recommended that we purchase municipal bonds, right? Now, I totally understand where he was coming from, right?
Yeah.
And 30, 40 years ago, that could have been an option.
A safe place.
A safe place, right? Now, the challenge was this was retirement money, okay? So municipal bonds are not for retirement dollars, right? They're going to be best in non-retirement because you get the main objective of a municipal bond, it being tax-free.
Gotcha.
Right? So it was noise. Right? It was noise and saying, okay, maybe you should do this or maybe you should do that. And unfortunately, a lot of times, we learn from somebody that we trust, right? Mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, someone taught us something about money, right? And what we have to understand though, is over time, things do change.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
I had a client come in last year. She had $1.3 million. 100% of it was in the bank.
Holy moly. And so total victim to inflation.
Total victim to inflation.
Not growing.
Not growing. Last year, she earned $1,000 on her money in the bank. And I said, why do you have so much money in the bank account, not really earning for you?
Yeah.
And she said, well, that's how my dad taught me.
Right.
He taught me to save your money, put it in a safe place, and that was the bank account, right? But the challenge is, things have changed.
So much.
Right? So 40 years ago when dad told her to do that, that was the right advice because you could go and get a 10% bank CD and you have $1.3 million, you're earning $130,000 of interest in a given year. But things have evolved and changed and maybe that's not always the best place. So you got to make sure that you're working with someone that you trust, that can give you the right information.
Absolutely, and a true relationship. So my dad was a proud United States Marine, fought in the Korean War. I'm the youngest of 6, and every day he would drive us to school to let my mom sleep in a little, thank God. And he would say, remember kids, a failure to plan is a plan to fail. A failure to plan is a plan to fail. I want to look at the binder. Let's talk about the power of the plan. If you're taking this advice from your dad, this advice from Betty at work, where is your plan?
Yeah,
that's the beauty of that.
We love this. Binder. It's old school, right? Because we want everything digital nowadays, but we love having a game plan, right? And I always do this. We do a lot of educational events throughout the city, and I always pull up the binder, because what I talk about with the binder is, I meet with hundreds of families each and every year. And what I found is there's typically one person in the family that handles the finances, right? Pays the bills, has some knowledge about investments and things like that. And the other one, not so much, right?
You agree on things, but the other one is taking the lead.
For sure.
And I'm that way in my family, and
you're that way in my family, right? And it works, right?
That's right.
And so, what I always talk about with the binder at our educational events is I've created one of these for my wife, right? And what's important about it is in the binder, some of the things that I have is where all of our assets are located. So if I don't come home tonight after work, well, she knows where all of our assets are located, all the different institutions, and also all the usernames and passwords.
Oh, right.
And I update it every quarter. So as the amounts change, she's going to know, that the volume has changed, right? So I also, because I'm the primary earner in my family, I have an income strategy in here, right? So if I pass, here's the income strategy that will be deployed, right? My kids are under the age of 18, so she'd be eligible for Social Security. She would also have some income from a business that I have for a period of time. And then also what's in the binder here is all my life insurance policies.
So important.
Right? Protective is not going to give her a call and say, hey, Randy, by the way, we wanted to send you a big check. We were just waiting to see if you wanted it or not. Right.
So you have to do it.
It's all the detail of the plan.
Yeah.
And that would be the same for anybody. You want step-by-step directions, a real guide to make sure you're on the right track, right?
That's right. Right track, your retirement, and the beneficiaries are in there.
Absolutely.
And if something happens to your family, there's one call. They call Secure Money Advisors, right?
That's it, yeah.
That's the big thing.
She knows to give Brian a call. He actually knows how I want my money invested if something happened to me, and he would basically step in and take over.
I love it. All right, during this quick break, we want you to give us a call. There's the QR code. As Neil said, Brian mails this to you in a gold envelope, like Willy Wonka. And we always say it's no obligation. That first appointment is absolutely free. After you read the book is a great way to start. What does that first appointment feel like?
Yeah, so it's a way to get your questions answered.
Nice.
Right? So a lot of times people, come in, they have a lot of concerns about retirement. And it's an easy way to understand more about what we do, what they're concerned about. Bring your questions, bring your statements, and there's no obligation. You mentioned it's complimentary. Leave your checkbook at home.
Yes.
And what we're doing is to see if there's ways we could even help you. We might tell you you're on the right track. Keep doing what you're doing.
All right. So take these few minutes to give us a call. Again, get this book written by Brian Quaranta, Right Track Your Retirement. I'm Rebecca Powers here with Neil Major. We'll be right back.
One of the biggest challenges people face when planning for retirement is simply knowing where to start. Over the years, I've sat with countless families who felt overwhelmed by all the information out there. And that's why I wrote my book, to cut through the noise and give you straightforward strategies to protect your money, avoid unnecessary risk, and build real financial confidence. Inside, you'll find step-by-step guidance on how to structure your retirement income, how to prepare for rising healthcare costs, and how to reduce the impact of taxes. It's not about complicated theories. It's about clear, actionable steps that anyone can follow. And here's the best part. I'd like to send you a complimentary copy of my book. No cost, no obligation, just real information that could make a difference in your retirement. This book has helped thousands of people better understand how to secure their financial future. If you're in that 5 to 10 year window of retirement, or you're already retired and you want to make sure you're not missing something, this book is for you. Call Secure Money Advisors today or visit us online at securemoneyadvisors.com to claim your complimentary copy today.
All right, welcome back. Hope you had a chance to ask Brian for that wonderful book. Like we said, it is absolutely free. So we love to take your questions, your comments, your calls, your emails as our show grows. Thank you so much to all of you at home for writing into us. So we're going to jump into some questions from you. This one is from Wexford. It's from Jim and Linda. So Neil, Jim is 65, Linda is 63. They say, as we start retirement, and this is a fantastic question. You touched on this word in the last segment. As we approach retirement, how do we create a reliable income stream that lasts for the rest of our lives? That is every poll that is taken, number one, biggest fear of Americans is, will my money run out?
Sure. And if you read any retirement book, it will tell you the people that are the happiest in retirement are the ones with the most guaranteed income.
Gotcha.
Right? Because it enables you to do things. I was just, we have a new South Point office, and I just met with folks on Wednesday, back-to-back meetings, and I just found it kind of interesting.
Yeah.
The first folks that I met with, they had $18,000 a month in guaranteed income. Okay, they're not a client of ours, they're a prospect, $18,000 a month. So he was a police officer and she was a school teacher. They're 70 years old, they're both collecting Social Security. So they have pensions, Social Security, $18,000 a month in guaranteed income. That feels pretty good.
Yeah, sounds
so good
great.
That they told me that they were on 12 vacations in the past year, right? So all that income is enabling to do the bucket list of things that they've always wanted to do. Now, fortunately, they picked great careers that had great pensions and are able to do that sort of thing. Now, they also had about $750,000 of saved money, but the important part was all the guaranteed income that they had in place, okay? Now, the next folks that came in, entirely different story. The next folks that came in immediately following this meeting had $4 million, Rebecca.
Wow.
$4 million. And they were retired. They were 67 years old. And they were trying to live off of their Social Security checks. And when I asked about the main priorities of the meeting, what he really talked about was the projections, the likelihood that he could get to maybe $5 million this year if all goes well, or when he'll get to $5 million. But guess what? His spouse was sitting right next to him saying, friends ask us to go on vacation and we pass it up because we don't have any income. He's so focused on growing this money that we're not able to actually enjoy our retirement.
What a great point.
Right?
Yeah.
And when I think about your question here, I think accumulation is very, very simple, right? And I don't even believe that you should have a financial advisor prior to the age of 50 or 55. Right? Because accumulation is pretty simple. You think about it, if you're in a 401k, you pick the investments that have probably the best 5-year return, right?
Yeah.
And you hope that it's going to go up, up, and up. Now, everything changes when you get into that financial red zone. And you have to start thinking about, where your income's going to come from. Are your investments in the right places? You've deferred your tax bill and you have this big bucket of money that's never been taxed before.
And it keeps growing.
It keeps growing.
No
your
tax
health
plan.
care,
Yeah.
how are you going to leave this money? There's a lot to think about. And that's when the advisor becomes so important.
Gotcha.
Now, obviously, priority number one for any person that's going to retire is establishing an income, right? You got to understand, where's your income going to come from if you're going to retire? You don't want to wing it, right? We're used to getting paycheck every 2 weeks, right? And what's so interesting about what we do and what we preach here on this show is you need to have predictable guaranteed income in order to retire. Think about it like this, Rebecca. If we were working for a certain company and they offered us a salary of, say, $100,000 a year versus a commission model where they say, well, you might earn $25,000 this year, you might earn $200,000 this year. we have no idea. It'll be dependent on how you do and how the company does.
Right.
Most people are going to pick the
Number
salary,
one. That's right.
Because we like certainty.
Right.
But what's interesting is a lot of times we go into retirement and we don't have any certainty. We have a diversified portfolio, but no certainty in our plan. And so, there's a lot of different ways that you can build guaranteed income.
Okay.
Right? We talk about it frequently. We like annuities, right? Annuities can give you a lot of predictability. Now, there's a lot of different types of annuities that we can incorporate. And it's not one size fits all. Sometimes an income annuity works really, really well for people. Sometimes just a fixed rate annuity can work for people to give a lot of predictability. Sometimes we can use CD ladders or fixed rate annuity ladders, something like that. We can use dividend strategies. I guess my point is, Rebecca, we're a fiduciary firm. And most importantly, we are an independent fiduciary firm.
And Brian talks about that in his book, how his parents struggled. They were business owners and he watched them struggle. And then his first job was with a big box and it was a nightmare. It was during, the bad times in 2007, 2008. And he had to take calls and say, oh, don't worry, leave your money in. It'll be fine. It's just a paper loss.
Yeah.
And he realized then and there, this man was 70 years old or 77, I believe, and said, Brian, I'm this old. How much longer do you think I have? So the relationship, knowing who's handling your money, what they're doing, but as Brian says, more importantly, why are you doing it? So number one, y'all ask a million questions. What are your goals? Do you want to travel with your friends?
Yep.
Unlike the guy just trying to grow his nest egg.
The book does a really good job
Yes.
at kind of understanding what we believe and how we plan, right? Our job, our responsibility to you is to provide you an outcome, right? Not to say we earned 10% this year on our investments.
Right.
No, the outcome is the important thing, right?
Living your dream.
Yeah, and a lot of times when people are coming in a little bit frustrated with their current situation, is they're making mistakes along the way, and sometimes they're not finding out about the mistakes until they happen, right? And so a retirement plan just doesn't focus solely on investments. A good retirement plan focuses on the income, then the investments, the tax strategy, the healthcare, the legacy, and they all go one into another, right? It's not, we got to do this and it doesn't involve that. No, they all go together.
Right.
And that's the important part. And that's why we offer the ability to come in, to sit down with our team and review your plan, get a second opinion. You can go to onthemoneyoffer.com. You can start by getting a copy of Brian's book, which I think you'll get a lot out of. Very easy read, really makes things simple. But you can also schedule an appointment to see if you're on the right track.
Absolutely. And again, leave your checkbook at home. It is complimentary. All right, stay with us. I'm Rebecca Powers here with Neil Major. We're talking about how you can secure your money. Stay with us.
One of the most overlooked areas of retirement planning is risk. I often ask people, do you know how much risk you're really taking with your investments? And most of the time, the answer is no. Here's the problem. If you're 5 or 10 years away from retirement or even already retired, the last thing you want is to be caught in a market downturn that wipes out a big portion of your nest egg. You may not have the time to recover. That's why we created our free risk quiz. It's designed to give you a clear picture of how much risk you're currently taking in your portfolio. Are you too aggressive? Are you too conservative? Or are you aligned with your goals and your timeline? What I love about this quiz is it takes all the guesswork out. You'll answer a few quick questions about your comfort level, your time horizon, and your goals. Then we'll match that with your actual portfolio to see if there's a mismatch. You'd be surprised how many people discover they're taking way more risk than they thought. Imagine going into retirement knowing that your portfolio actually matches your goals. No surprises, no sleepless nights. That's the peace of mind this quiz can provide. So scan the QR code on the screen or visit righttrackrisk.com to take the quiz and find out if your money matches your mindset.
Yeah, and that quiz is really fun. It takes about 5 minutes, and it is very eye-opening. Again, hope you got a copy of Brian's book. It is absolutely free. Neil, you mentioned in the last segment that you have a new office.
Yeah, we have an office now in South Point, Rebecca. So,
Awesome.
it's kind of funny. I grew up in the South Hills of Pittsburgh, and I lived in Canonsburg when I joined Secure Money Advisors. And, I had said to Brian, I'm driving a long way each and every day to commute to the Zelienople office.
Lots of bridges.
And I said to Brian, are you sure we don't want to consider an office in the South Hills? And he said, I think maybe just one office is all we need. And I said, I can appreciate, I understand that. I decided to move up north with my family. And what do you think we did, Rebecca? We put an office down in the South, and, we love it down there.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of great feedback by being down there. We have a lot of people that watch this show, listen to us on the radio, and, they say this is much, much easier not to have to drive up to Zelienople.
Yeah.
We now have a South location.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And I know you prefer to meet people in person, but COVID taught us that you can do Zooms too. So that's certainly an option, right?
Yeah, for sure. Most times we believe that the biggest benefit is in person, but we don't oppose a phone call or a Zoom meeting. Absolutely.
Right. All right. So we talked a lot this week about the plan, having your plan. You mentioned tax ramifications. So I want to take a question from Butler. Bob and Nancy, thank you so much. They're both in their late 60s. They say, we're about to retire. We're worried about how much of our Social Security will be taxed. How do we plan? And I love this question because it touches on what you said. Don't wait till your acorn is a giant oak tree to pay your taxes. Let's do tax planning now to save big bucks. But it also mentions Social Security. So Bob and Nancy and Butler, thank you so much for watching.
Well, that's a great question, right? I mean, people want to know how much they're going to be taxed. We hear a lot of people say that my Social Security is not taxed. I think, something that President Trump ran on was no taxes on Social Security. That's not exactly how it played out. So people want to know, do I have to pay taxes? So there's a provisional income formula to understand specifically how much your Social Security is going to be taxed. Now, if you have followed the One Big Beautiful Bill, we also know that there's an additional standard deduction if you're over the age of 65. Okay, so for someone that's over 65, you'll get an additional $6,000 of standard deduction. So in a lot of cases, your Social Security potentially isn't taxed at all. I'll give you a great example of a case I was working on with one of my colleagues in the office. And what we did for these folks was we actually put $500,000 into an income annuity. That was going to be their green bucket, what they were going to live off of. And they had about $500,000 still in the stock market. But the $500,000 that we moved to an income annuity, what we did over a 5-year period was convert that money from traditional to Roth. So in 5 years, when they started receiving the income of almost $50,000 a year, it was going to be entirely tax-free. Now, what was nice about that, Rebecca, is they had $60,000 of Social Security income, $50,000 of income from a Roth. So that made their Social Security entirely tax-free. So now you have $110,000 of income coming in, paying zero in taxes. So Michael did a phenomenal job in building out that strategy. He's awesome, isn't he?
He's
great
from
guy.
a wonderful police family, right? His dad's cop, brother cop.
Great guy. But it was a great strategy for those folks to get $110,000 of income, not to pay any taxes. So depending on your situation, will be dependent on how much of your Social Security will be taxed. And we'd love to take a look for you and help, because maybe there's some strategies that we can make it tax-free.
Right. And it's not what you earn, it's what you keep.
That's the important part.
Bob and Nancy, thank you so much. RightTrackMyTaxBill.com. RightTrackMyTaxBill.com. Talk quickly about why y'all created this. This is something that you can go on and see what we call your ticking tax time bomb. What will be your tax liability when you're in your 70s and you're forced to take out those minimum distributions? Yeah,
so Rebecca, what we found is that a lot of people, when they have an advisor, the only things that they're actually talking about with their advisor are how they performed over the past year. And so I said, when you go in and meet with your advisor, what do you talk about? They say, well, we talk about, our rate of return over the past year. And I say, gosh, don't you know that?
Yeah.
You can look at your phone, put your face up. It will tell you exactly what your rate of return over the past year is, right?
Yeah.
And then they say, well, my advisor will tell me what the market's going to do over the next 6 months.
They have a crystal ball. Huh?
Gosh, I don't know anybody that knows what the market's going to do over the next 6 months. What else do you talk about? They said, that's really it, right? That's not enough. That's not enough. And what we have to focus on when you come into our office as a client, the focus is the plan, okay? Not the investments, the plan. And the plan is, what's the income? Do we have enough? What are we doing to plan for taxes and required minimum distributions? Is there any way that we could get our Social Security tax-free? Do we still have the right investments as the strategy shifts? What's the legacy? How are we passing this money? And so that's why we offer the ability to come in. OnTheMoneyOffer.com, you can sit down, meet with a fiduciary independent firm, take a look at how we plan. You can get a copy of Brian's book, Right Track Your Retirement, which I think you'll get a lot of great information from. But, the key is the plan, Rebecca. I can't stress it enough.
Yeah. So taxes, income, Medicare. We'll talk about that maybe next week because we're already out of time. It's hard to believe. There's the number. There's OnTheMoneyOffer.com. There's the number. Thank you. It's in the control room, Randy. And there's the QR code. And I can't stress enough the righttrackmytaxbill.com. When my husband and I went in and did that little quiz, it literally takes 5 minutes. It's shocking how much we're going to owe Uncle Sam. They don't tell us, but when we're 73, 74, 75, all of a sudden, boom.
Boom. And that's when it's too late.
Right.
So you want to do the planning now. That's the key part. Now, I think the best compliment that we get from these offers, from these complimentary meetings, is when people come in, they say, how come no one has ever shown us how simple this can be?
Yes.
Right? We make it very, very simple for you to understand. Our job is not to give you a booklet of Monte Carlo scenarios that you have no idea what that pie chart actually means. Our responsibility is to provide you an outcome.
Absolutely. And in that complimentary appointment, you'll also get a third-party printout, and this is very powerful stuff. A third-party printout, what your actual risk is and the actual fees that you've been paying. Sometimes we'll say you can be feed to death. You might think 1% doesn't sound like much, but it could be more than you realize. Thank you so much, Pittsburgh. We love you. We hope to see you again next time.